Panama, Panama, Panama. I was walking through the streets of Panama today, and I thought to myself, Panama really reminds me of the Dominican Republic, right? Panama really reminds me of the Dominican Republic, specifically comparing Panama City to Santo Domingo, right? When you look at these two big cities, you're looking at infrastructure, you're looking at buildings, you're looking at high rises. Just like any big city, just like NYC, like Dubai, like Singapore. These are two very built up cities that provide a lot of opportunities and jobs and stuff along that lines to enable those within the economy to benefit financially, to grow, to better themselves, right? To get an education, to find careers. If you're looking to move overseas and you're looking for a stable, which I would call stable economy, right? When's the last time you heard Panama City was in a recession? When's the last time you heard Santo Domingo was in a recession? If you're looking for a stable economy where you can live a comfortable lifestyle, you should consider Santo Domingo and Panama, right? This isn't a city that's full of hate or crime or disrespect towards tourists like Spain, right? There's 100 videos online of people in Spain talking about how they don't want tourists and tourists are making the rent go up and this, that, and the third. Panama and the Dominican Republic are what I would consider tourist-free countries because you can come here and no one's saying get out. You can come here and no one's asking why are you here. You can come here and no one's complaining about you being in an Airbnb or a hostel or a hotel or whatever the case may be. No one's complaining about your presence because everyone, right, whether you live here, whether you're a tourist, whether you're in school, no matter what brought you here, you are contributing to the economy. And everyone's friendly and everyone's nice. And people say, oh, there's crime here, there's crime there. Name me a country right now that doesn't have crime. Name me a country right now that does not have crime. Those places do not exist, right? And when you have stable economies, guys, get your pen and piece of paper, right? Write this down. When you have stable economies, when you have infrastructure, when you have careers, when you have a place that is comparable to big cities in the U.S. and Europe, you're going to find great women. You're going to find educated women. You're going to find women in their careers. I went to Subway for lunch today, and all you see is women in these business casual, women in heels and sports coats and jeans and slacks. These are things that you don't really see in a lot of cities in the Caribbean and South America. Let's be honest. I'm bamboozled. I'm shocked. I'm fooled. I'm psyched of how many women that I've seen in a subway doing lunch that looked like they was there on their lunch break. It's not many places that I go to where I go get something to eat during lunch and I see women dressed like they're taking a break from lunch. These are the kind of women that you need in your life as an expat, a traveler, or a passport bro, whatever terminology or word or title or definition that you prefer. These are the types of women that you need in your life. You need a woman that goes to work every day, not some woman that's saying, hey, I need you to take care of me. I need you to pay my bills and pay my rent and pay my electricity and my water and buy me groceries. And she has 2 to 3 kids at home. You as a man, right? You as a man that's searching for love, don't settle, right? And I've said this before. You know, I'm a little biased, right? Right. My opinions might be my own because I don't have kids. I'm not sure even want kids, right? But men that have children can't be but so picky, right? I don't feel like a man that has 2 or 3 children can say, hey, I don't want a woman with kids. Okay, so you want her to put up with your stubborn, hard-headed, crying kids, but you don't want to put up with her stubborn, hard-headed, crying kids. So I don't personally believe that, you know, men with kids should have this superiority complex that I'm American, I'm European, I don't want a woman with kids, but she got to deal with mine. That is a selfish way of thinking, right? So I do feel that there should be give and take in relationships, right? But if your kids are 18, 19, 20 years old, maybe that's a different story. If your kids don't live at home, that's a different story. But to be neutral, a woman doesn't want to take care of another woman's kids. Just like you don't want to take care of another man's kids. Let's be honest, the truth can never be considered disrespect. A woman doesn't want to take care of another woman's kids, just like you don't want to take care of another man's kids. The truth can never be considered disrespect, right? So here's my thing, right? Everyone knows I love voluptuous women, right? That's my tea, right? I'm sorry, that's my cup of tea. I love voluptuous women, right? And I like what I like. You like what you like, right? I love voluptuous women, right? So if I was to pick between Panama and Santo Domingo, right, Panama City and Santo Domingo, or Panama and the Dominican Republic, I am of course going to pick the Dominican Republic all day because they just have more of what I like. And I'm not saying none of that is here, right? Because that stuff is here as well. But they have more of what I particularly like in the Dominican Republic. You can go to, I was at the mall, Aurora Mall or Golden Mall or whatever the name of that mall is, and I went to Blue Mall. I went to 2, 3 malls, and all you see is stick ones, stick ones, stick ones. Women in tight clothes, women in those spandex that's hugging their rear end. Uh, you don't have to search far and wide to find a voluptuous woman in Santo Domingo. Like you just go outside. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to go to the club. You can go to the mall. You can go to Starbucks. You don't have to search far and wide to find a voluptuous woman in Santo Domingo, right? But you're gonna have to search a little bit harder, to find a voluptuous woman in Panama. I've been walking around for a couple of days, right? I think tomorrow, I might go to the mall today, but tomorrow for sure, I want to go to the Panama Canal, right? But back on topic, right? For what I like, I'm going to find that in the Dominican Republic, right? Dominican Republic, or some places in Africa. But I'm kind of in a box as to what what I'm saying. I am particularly going to go for, especially when you talk about marriage and relationships and dating. You have to be voluptuous, right? If you talk about doing some other stuff, we having fun, we enjoying each other's company. You with me for a day or two, a weekend, we just get along great. Sure, right? The standards aren't that high, right? I have standards, but they're not that high. I just know in my head that there will be nothing between us. There will be nothing serious. But when I am talking about a serious relationship, she has to be voluptuous. If I am talking about paying bills or rent or getting her hair done and nails done, or paying a car note, or whatever it incorporates what a man should be doing in a relationship, she has to look a certain way. But that's just me. So I am in a box of between Africa and the DR. Those are the only places that I can possibly find the love of my life, right? Are there exceptions to the rule? Yes. But for the most part, I'm going to have the easiest time finding someone that I like in Africa or the DR, right? So back to the topic. If a gentleman wrote today, talking about he doesn't like women with BBL. Listen, I didn't like women with BBLs either, right? When I first started seeing BBLs and all these women that look like someone took a bike's air pump and pause. Someone took, an inner tube in a bike and blew it up. Someone put water and ice in a bag. Look like someone had a blow up doll that gone wrong. Like someone stuffed silicone in a pillowcase. When I started seeing BBLs, let's be honest, I wasn't into them either. I thought they were the worst things known to man. But over time, I've come to love them, right? Do some BBLs look better than others? Yes, right? Right? Let's be honest. But I've come to love them, right? So if you're into the more natural, attractive look, right? If you are into the more natural, attractive look, you really cannot go wrong with Panama, right? You can't go wrong with Panama, right? I'm not, I'm trying to give y'all enough information to be successful to make the right decision as far as where you could or should go as far as finding your partner, venturing off, dating scene. But don't overlook Panama, right? Listen, I'm not trying to give y'all, put a key in y'all back and turn y'all and twist y'all paws in order to get you to come to Panama, right? But I'm just saying that Panama should be on the table when you're considering traveling, when you're considering meeting someone that you could potentially spend the rest of your life with, right? I'm just saying, Give it some thought. Panama, listen, I was in Panama a long time ago, as I've said before. I'm going to indulge in some activities tonight. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get myself into something tonight, literally, right? I've seen some reviews on Reddit, YouTube. I've got a good grasp on where I could go or should go tonight. I need to get some intel for y'all because that's really what y'all need. Y'all really need this intel. Y'all really just know what's going on out here in these Panama streets, right? But right, and as I've said, and I'm going to say again, I don't want to give y'all too much information to where Panama City is the next Sewell prior to the raid. I don't want to give y'all too much information to where Panama City is the next Medellin prior to the raid. And listen, I said I'm gonna drop videos. I'm gonna give y'all content, right? I'm gonna give you some answers to questions you may or may not have, but I'm not gonna give you too much because I don't want to ruin it, right? I really do not want to ruin Panama City, right? Most of the Americans that I've seen here, I don't know if it's a military base here or not. I don't know what's going on here. I've half run into some Americans, right? Listen, I was in the military, right? You can look at someone's haircut, right, and tell if they're in the military or not, right? Matter of fact, let's Google that, right? Let's Google that. Let's Google that. Is there a U.S. military base in Panama City, Panama? No. Uh, it says there's no military bases in Panama. Uh, U.S. troops sometimes train in Panamanian bases. They say there's no U.S. troops in Panama, but I've seen some guys that look like they was in the military. Maybe they just got a military cut, but I have seen some guys that look like they was in the military, right? But nonetheless, there are some Americans here. It seems like maybe some retirees are here. As you know, as you may or may not know, there used to be a military base in Panama, right? As you know, a lot of people they get out of the military and they retire at the last duty station, right? Like my old first sergeant, he retired out of my old base. You know what I'm saying? A lot of retirees are tired of where they was from, so where they retired from. So you're gonna be amongst familiar faces in Panama, right? A lot of people here speak English. I'm gonna be honest with you, right? There's more people here in Panama that speak English than I run into in Santo Domingo, right? And I'm not saying these the first language of these countries is Spanish, right? So I'm not saying, hey, people in the DR should know English, people in Panama should know English. Most people here, the language of these countries is Spanish, so I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, as you're moving around and you're communicating and you're doing business and getting something to eat or whatever the case may be, you will run into more people that speak English fluently here in Panama than you will in the DR. I'm just saying, listen, I don't mind Google Translate. I've been using Google Translate for years, so I don't mind using Google Translate. I've been on multiple dates, a gazillion amount of dates, just using Google Translate, right? But if you're not into using Google Translate, if you're not into learning Spanish, which I really don't suggest, right? Unless you're gonna be in one country for the rest of your life, and I'm never gonna do that, right? I'm gonna travel to the wheels fall off. I suggest you go to Panama. If you're not into using Google Translate, if you're not into using learning Spanish right now, go to Panama. You'll have an easier transition with getting stuff done and living your day-to-day life in Panama than you would in the DR. But as I've said before, I'm a DR baby, so I'm always going to say DR, right? But Santo Domingo versus Panama City, DR versus Panama, right? If everything's the same, right? But if you're into the more natural look, I am going to say Panama City. If you're into the more voluptuous look, without a doubt, you can't go wrong with Santo Domingo, man. I love that place. Listen, let me know what's up. Let me know what's up. The truth can never be